time edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, something very interesting has happened in the last 2 days. Not entirely new, but definitely merits getting your attention. Definitely merits a conversation. And I'm talking about the proceedings inside our parliament, inside the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Now the sessions have ended. Today was the last day. Both have been adjourned sine die. But let me tell you, over 16 different legislations, bills and amendment to bills, over 16 of these were passed between the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha just between yesterday and today. So in 2 sessions, we've had over 16 bills being passed. Now, why am I emphasizing on it? Because these were the 2 days where the opposition had boycotted the parliament session, was protesting outside and wasn't participating in the conversations inside. So essentially, 16 legislations went through without a comprehensive conversation, discussion or debate, without proper participation in a debate, and important bills were passed. Now, if I had to give you a brief look into the kind of legislations we are talking about, the Jammu and Kashmir Official Languages Bill, the Industrial Code Bill 2020, which actually talks about the powers or the rights of a worker to go on strike and how much advance notice will a worker now have to give. That has now changed. Social Security Bill 2020, which proposes creation of a National Social Security Board, again, to bring in some schemes for the workers. Essential Commodities Amendment Bill, I'm sure you've heard more about this already. The Banking Regulation Amendment Bill that seeks to make some significant changes. Foreign Contribution Amendment Bill 2020, highly controversial already. A lot is being spoken about outside the parliament, but no really constructive debate inside the parliament. Companies Amendment Bill, and so on and so forth. And all this while, it's been legislations being passed without any debate. Not the first time. Over the next 1 hour, I will give you examples of how this has happened in the past. But can this really be a norm? Should this be an acceptable norm? And if not, who is responsible? The onus lies where to ensure that the House functions in a much better, constructive manner. That's the only question I want to ask this evening. Let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining me right now. Dinesh Varshney, leader of CPI, Neha Joshi, spokesperson for the BJP, Dr. Syed Nasir Hussain, member of parliament for Rajya Sabha for the Congress party, Kalikesh Narayan Singh Deo, former member of parliament in the Lok Sabha for the BJD, and Professor Jagdeep Chokar, founder member of the Association for Democratic Reforms, joining me this evening. Let me actually start with Dr. Hussain. Dr. Hussain, is that fair to the people of this country that over 16 legislations are passed in 2 days, in 2 curtailed sessions, without a constructive, proper conversation?
Tanvi, I think the party that is there in power should answer this to the people of this country. It is always the responsibility of the government to see that both the houses of the parliament function. There are debates in the parliament. Enough time is given to the opposition parties. There is the houses are in order. There is debate and discussion on every bill, and important bills are sent to the select committees or the joint parliamentary committees. There is proper scrutiny of the bills before a decision is taken. In most of the bills, there are decisions on consensus. Some of the important bills go to select and joint parliamentary committees, and when they come back, there is consensus on them. So we have evolved mechanisms and institutions within the parliamentary practices of our democracy, where these are time-tested mechanisms which allows for the complete scrutiny, and there's lots of flexibility amongst the various ideologies in the parliament, which, despite having completely opposite views, they sit and have consensus on certain bills. But I don't know why this time the government was in haste. I don't know why the government didn't want there to be proper discussion. I don't know why the government wanted to bulldoze and push the bills in such a way that the opposition is even denied to have an opportunity to vote on the bills. This is unprecedented. This has set a new precedent in the parliamentary practices of our country.
No, but okay, let me actually bring in then Neha Joshi. Neha Joshi, is it fair? And I'm asking from the point of view of people who voted all these members of parliament in Lok Sabha, and of course the ones who got nominated to the Rajya Sabha. Is it fair that we don't even give due time to discuss important legislations?
Thank you, Tanvi, and I'm glad that you're asking for the take decisions, take the country forward. People do not elect a government to sit back, relax, to protest outside the parliament. Just to give you an example, the three major labor reform bills that were passed by the parliament, that were passed by the Rajya Sabha, in the past 6 years, these bills have gone through major iteration and deliberations. Various stakeholder consultations were held, trade unions, employers, state governments, experts in the labor sector, everybody was consulted. If at all the opposition had any issues with these bills, they should have been in parliament today and not making a mockery of democracy outside the parliament, holding placards. You have a job to represent the people inside the parliament, and clearly you're failing at your job. So the onus squarely is on the opposition parties. They could have been inside. In the 60 hours of functioning of the Rajya Sabha, we saw an unprecedented productivity of 167%, 25 bills passed, 2,300 unstarred questions, 370 zero-hour mentions. All of this happened despite the opposition leaders behaving absolutely in an immature manner, creating a ruckus, even desecrating the Parliament House, I would go to the extent of saying. So I think the onus here is squarely on the opposition leader. So I'm surprised that, the Congress representative here is asking the government this question. I think he should be asking his party colleagues and other opposition members this question.
Kalikesh Singh there, whose responsibility is it, or can it be only one side's responsibility to ensure that justice is done to the legislations that are being brought in?
It's a very situational matter. Conceptually, the government is responsible for running the parliament smoothly. There's no doubt about that. I've been in government, on the government side as well as on the opposition side for many years. But in this particular case, the issue was the manner in which the farm bills were passed in Rajya Sabha, particularly. The fact that the government, the opposition claims that the government did not allow division of votes or voting as per the division rules. I think that's led to the discontent. And honestly, the rules are very clear. If the opposition wanted a division, even if a single member wants a division and asks for it during a voice vote, that should have happened. Now, the government needs to be a little more democratic to allow these forces to come in. And, they have the liberty to delay that vote if they feel the numbers are not there. The numbers should be there. There's no reason why the numbers shouldn't be there. But to pass such important legislation without discussion, without debate, without keeping in view the opposition's view or even a different perspective, I think is a sad thing for democracy. But it's not new. Let me tell you very clearly that when the Congress was there in government, it did the very same thing. And the BJP is doing it now and much more blatantly. It's not as if the opposition raises issues and the government actually modifies bills. I've only seen it happen in Parliament when Jairam Ramesh was doing the NGT bill. He took all our suggestions in and modified the bill or modified the rules. But this kind of hegemonic, autocratic behavior from governments on both sides of the fence is truly a sad thing for democracy and a sad thing for parliamentary democracy.
Yes, in fact, may I just remind, Dr. Hussain, this part, what you raised, Kalikesh, is that between 2006 and 2014, when the UPA was in power and at one point had very clear majority in the House. They went on to pass 18 bills despite opposition, despite interruptions, despite walkouts, and despite protests happening outside. These also included crucial ones like Banking Regulation Amendment Bill, which was passed in just 5 minutes in 2007. Taxation Laws Amendment Bill just passed in 2 minutes, again in 2007. The UPA passed 3 crucial bills in just 16 minutes in 2010. So it's not something new. And Dr. Hussain, if it is the responsibility of the government, you didn't care about it when you were in power, whether the opposition was there, not there, backing, not backing, you went ahead.
Tanvi, I think different situation warrant different kind of a response both from the government and from the opposition. In this case, it is very, very clear bills as important as the farmer bills, in which crores and crores of our farmers' lives were being impacted. I think the opposition parties didn't ask for more. What they just asked were two things. One, when the timing of the Rajya Sabha was over at 1 o'clock, and without taking the sense of the House, without talking to the opposition parties, the deputy chairman unilaterally decided to go ahead with the bill. That was where when all the opposition leaders got up and said, no, we'll adjourn the House today. We will meet again tomorrow. Let the minister give his remarks, and after that, let there be amendments be proposed. Then the people, those who propose the amendments, be given an opportunity to speak, and later on again let the minister speak, and then we'll go for voting on it. But that was where the confusion and the hangama started. Taking advantage of that thing, deputy chairmen tried to push this bill through voice vote. Then we again, all of us started shouting for the division of the House. These were all very simple things. They were not very important issues. They could have, if they really had the number as Ravi Shankar Prasad claims, they could have easily had the division on the House and they could have passed the bill. You are not ready to accept for the adjournment which is due at 1 o'clock. You are not ready to go for the division of the House. And then on the next day also, you suspend 8 members unilaterally without again taking a division or taking the sense of the House. This is the kind of the autocratic behavior which was protested by the opposition parties, not one party, two party, about 18 parties protested, and they went and met the President of India today and asked him not to, request him not to give assent to the bills. See, my question is, what was so much, why were the government in so much in a hurry to pass these bills? Another 2 hours of discussion, another 1 hour of discussion would have not done great damage to the passage of the bills or something like that. They would have waited for 1 more hour. They were, what we were asking a few amendments in the bill. We were asking it to be sent to the select committee so that there is more clarity on the bill, and that will help and protect the farmers.
Okay, I will come back to you. The point that you're making is that it depends from situation to situation, and that's really about how one side acts, not whether your side is in power or is in opposition. Mr. Dinesh Varchne, does it depend on situation to situation, or has this just become a norm irrespective of who is in power? As long as you have the majority, you go ahead and do what you want without conversation, without deliberation.
Look, Tanvi, before coming to your show, I was looking into the parliamentary democratic countries, and I have never seen such a behavior of the government. I have not gone through any of such like this. What Neha Joshi was referring to and you were saying about 2007, don't you know that 3 consecutive sessions of the parliament were not allowed to be run by the BJP in UPA 2? Where were they at that time? They did not understand the sanity of the House at that time. You see, it can happen, but one has to be, it is the duty of the government to see to it that opposition remains in the House. When your own norm says that division, when even a single member demand division, you have to go for division. You are farming a 3 farmers bill. Farmers and workers are the largest community of this country. I would like to tell to the people of India through Mirror Now, a very national channel, a popular national channel. They are the largest community. and it will affect their life. It will affect their career. What are you doing? You have suspended 8 members of the parliament. Have you taken a division on that? You are supposed to follow a democratic norms, whatever the time it is. If the earlier the wrong has been done, does not mean the wrong should be approved now. That is very unfortunate. It is a murder of democracy. It is not only a murder of democracy. The people of India have been left into lurch to suffer for generation to generations. And corporatization of the agriculture will happen. Workers will be succumb to the pressures and the undue advantages of the mill owners and the industry. MSPs, only 6% get MSPs, so their agriculture will be dealt by the capitalists now. So what will happen? Who is welcoming these bills? The Walmart, the
No,
big
I
bazaar,
agree
the
with
big
you.
baskets. Who are they? Who are they? Are they the farmers? Do they toil the soil during the sunshine, or during the scorching heat, or during the rains, or during the winter? It is the farmers, Baba. They are our bread earners.
Mr. Dinesh Varshney.
What are you doing?
Mr. Dinesh Varshney, I agree with you. I don't want to get into the merits or the demerits of one specific legislation. Frankly, if we start doing that, there will always be, then it will always have to be counted as a reason to behave the way you want and how you want. My point is, yes, the farmers' legislations, the 3 bills are extremely important. We've been waiting for a big change in the system for a while. When we do it, it should be done properly with extensive conversation. But so is the change in the labor laws that we are bringing in. So is the change in the FCRA laws that we are bringing in. Several other legislations which are up for conversation. Are we forgetting what's getting by because we have now decided to make this the political issue? That is the question that I'm asking you right now, Mr. Dinesh Varshney.
No, Tanvi, you tell me. If somebody says that you are making it a political issue, what the government has done in the Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha is a non-political thing. Haven't they decided politically? Don't the government of India and the people of India and the people of the world know this fact that the politics governs the nation? When politics governs the nation, when politically you have
but what are you gaining from boycotting the session when the bill has already been passed?
We have to go on the roads. We will go on the roads. Today, more than 2 crore workers have protested on the roads of Delhi against these labor code bills. And there will be a Bharat Bandh on this issue by the farmers on 25th, and workers have supported them. We will go on the road because it is a murder of democracy, unfortunately, from the government side, by suspending 8 MPs, by not allowing the vote, passing the bill by voice vote. It is unfortunate. I have gone through around 4 hours before coming to your show. I have gone to the various countries about their parliamentary functioning. I have not seen any of it. This is India is unique. During Modi ji, everything is unique.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Jagdeep Chokar as well, founder member of Association for Democratic Reforms, somebody who fights for reforms in the current existing system. Professor Chokar, what's the way out? Every time a party opposition decides they want to protest, there is either, and if they are overwhelming in numbers, they can result in a washout session. If the government has overwhelming numbers, then they can just railroad legislations without constructive conversation. Is there a way out of this situation?
Well, there is certainly a way out of every situation. And there is a way out of the situation provided we want to get out of this situation. This situation, somebody mentioned that there was desecration of parliament. In 2012, I wrote a piece in a newspaper saying denigration of parliament. And 2012 was the time when the then leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha would announce the evening before that we shall not allow the parliament or the Lok Sabha to function tomorrow. Now, to me, to say a thing like this and then to prevent the Lok Sabha from functioning is not only a treacherous but a treasonous act. And somebody who did that should have been tried and convicted for treason. But the fact is that we have desecrated, denigrated, destroyed the ultimate institution of democracy, the parliament. Even the committee system is not being used properly. It is used to do bargaining and this, that, and the other. And then the parliament discussion is a formality. Now you said what is the way out? The way out, Dr. Ambedkar in a speech on 25th of November 1949 in the Constituent Assembly, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad in his speech in the Constituent Assembly on November 26, 1949, both of them said that a constitution can be good or bad. How a constitution works will depend on the people who work this constitution. The problem is not with the system. The problem is that the kind of people that go into parliament are not the appropriate ones. And let me go further. Why do such people go in? The facile explanation is that they are voted by people like you and me. But if we go even further, we find that political parties, and I am saying all of them, not any one or two or three, all political parties give tickets to candidates who are not fit to be in the parliament. And if there are 2 or 3 or 4 major candidates in a constituency, all of which are not fit to go into parliament, what choice does a voter have? The way out, Tanvi, is to make political parties responsible and accountable for their actions, which can only be done if there is internal democracy in the functioning of political parties by law. This expression is not mine. This was used by the Law Commission of India in 1999. That report of the Law Commission of India has not even been presented to the Parliament. There have been governments of one hue and another hue and another hue and another hue. No political party is interested in being responsible for its actions. Every single party, and I think we have representatives of 3 or 4 here, everybody has blamed the other party. Now this is very easy, but when do people start looking inwards, and when do political parties, which are supposedly the pillars of our democracy, when do they become democratic? I really believe that our democracy is hollow. We do not have a democracy in the country because the institutions which are supposed to run our democracy, the political parties, are not democratic. So, Tanvi, the way out is to make political parties democratic in their internal functioning by law. But the tragedy is the law has to be made by people who belong to political parties. Therefore, I think we, the citizens, the media, and the judiciary will have to work together, and I hate to use this word, to force political parties to become internally democratic in their functioning. That is the only way out. There is no other way out.
Okay, so can there be a method of ensuring that the basics of parliamentary proceedings are followed? Kalikesh, do you have a view on it?
And chairmen and chairs of the House procedurally violate the rules of the House because the Constitution envisages an unbiased speaker who will take the sense of the Constitution or sense of rules of business and conducts himself or herself. And that's been done. Now, Professor Chokar raised a very interesting point. He said that political parties are at fault because of the candidates, but he also said there's no internal democracy. I think he's half right in my opinion. You see what's happening, Tanvi, the 3 facets of governance, the executive, judiciary, and the legislative, are always in balance with each other, gain some ground and some advantage. What's happened over the decades is that the executive has completely taken over the parliament. So the prime minister or the chief minister is normally the leader of the political party, the majority political party. And the individual MPs don't matter. They have to vote as per the whip. And even if even if they express an opinion which doesn't agree with their leader, he can summarily cut their tickets. There is no internal party democracy where even if I don't get along with my leader, I can actually stand up for for the primary system and get my ticket. So we are very dependent on that one person, the leadership of the political party, who invariably becomes the chief minister or prime minister if your party is in power. And it is in the executive's interest to not have any questions asked. They don't want their own partymen rising up and asking questions, and they certainly don't want the opposition to raise uncomfortable questions. So when Professor Chokar says that there's a danger to the Indian democracy, I completely agree with him. The three-line whip, the lack of an internal party democracy, and the basic freedom of speech which is missing in Parliament, I think that is the real danger to Indian democracy.
Yes, because at the end of the day, Mr. Dinesh Varshney, to you, and then I'll go to Neha Joshi. You may take to the streets tomorrow and make your point that you stand with the farmers, but you could have still very well attended the proceedings today and yesterday, participated in what you're supposed to do for this very limited parliament session that was which was going to take place because of COVID, and then continued with your protest. Your boycotting the session and not attending it yesterday and today didn't really make any difference. The bills you are opposing have already been passed.
Look, Tanvi, when democracy already has been murdered, when a bill is passed through voice vote, you have expelled 8 honorable members of parliament belonging to 5 political parties, opposition political parties. What do you want? You mean to say that we should continue to support this government or to discuss this with this government who is not ready to listen, zero or curtail? You are not ready to send it to the selection committees. Professor Chokar has just said even the parliamentary committees are not functioning. I agree with the Kalkesh that dissent is not allowed. And this dissent is only allowed in the left parties. Nowhere else in any other political party this dissent is allowed against the president of the party or chief minister of that party or prime minister of that party. And under Modi ji, we are facing one problem.
Oops, we've lost the line with you, Mr. Dinesh Varshney. Neha Joshi, the question to you as well. It may be the allegation of the opposition today, Neha Joshi, that the problem is that the government is not following the rules and is not allowing us to talk. But you've been on the other side as well. Your party was the biggest disruptor of parliamentary politics when UPA was in power.
Like you said, Tanvi, these are allegations.
Neha Joshi.
Everything. The whole country watched what happened in Parliament. Let me also remind my, learned friend from the Congress that he represents a party where, when the Telangana State Formation Bill was being passed, the Honorable Speaker of the House, Meera Kumarji, she said the Lok Sabha feed be cut off and, the country didn't know what was happening inside the Parliament. So we've had that kind of precedent. However, the government here acted responsibly. These were important bills that needed to be passed. The labor reform bills that were passed, the 3 bills that were passed, these were long pending. These reforms were long pending. These and the farm bills combined have the capacity to change the way agriculture and industries function in the country. However, the point that we're discussing here and what is important is that nobody stopped the opposition parties from participating. They chose to stage a dharna outside the parliament. It was almost dramatic the way they, they were sitting outside parliament, they were marching outside parliament, they were doing everything but the one job entrusted to them, that is representing the people inside the parliament. They could have raised their concern, they could have raised objections, just like the 50% of 198 speakers who spoke inside the parliament. I saw some very, very effective speeches coming from opposition leaders. What was stopping the others from doing so? So this whole argument that the government didn't do what it was supposed to do. The government did exactly what it was supposed to do. The government's job is to bring in reform, take the country forward. That's what the government did. If the opposition does not want to be part of this reform process, if the opposition wants to stage a drama outside parliament, who are we to stop them?
Yes, and the opposition being BJP as well, when you were not in power and you did the same. We had washout after washout sessions in the parliament because the BJP would object to everything Congress brought in. And I know you mentioned, and you're right, you mentioned the blacking out of the feed. The mics were muted even on the day of Rajya Sabha proceedings on Sunday, Neha. And we don't even know if the feed was that, it can be taken at face value. I know you say the viewers can see what happened that day, but the feed is as per discretion given to us. And the mics were muted. So no, we don't know what went on, who said what, in what sequence. We only have to believe what is told to us by the government. We only have Ravi Shankar Prasad to be believed when he says 13 times they were asked to sit. We would have held the vote, but that didn't happen. We only have the government to believe when they say they had 110 votes and they would have any which ways gotten the bill passed this way or that. At the end of the day, the losses of people, the losses of voters who hoped that when a special session is held in the middle of an economic crisis, and I will call it a crisis, it's not just a slowdown. A session of parliament that is held in the middle of a pandemic that is not going away anytime soon. There is so much to discuss and debate. There is so much to talk about healthcare infrastructure, about how COVID has impacted our education calendars and our colleges and our universities and schools, about how COVID has impacted our jobs, our economic slowdown, businesses are shutting down, jobs are being lost. That was not even a big theme in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha this time. That unfortunately didn't even get the due attention. Whose fault is it? I believe the both sides. One side just wanted to go through with their agenda, the other side just wanted to block. And at the end of the day, you and I, viewers, we are the ones who are the losers in that. Because the legislations, the laws, the acts that will impact your life and my life have been made without enough discussion. Unfortunate that is. Thank you to the panelists for joining us right now on this conversation.